How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Today I wanted to focus in on what is considered by most to be the most eye-catching moment of Stage 2's second week. Okay, so first and foremost, we have to start off by addressing the elephant in the room. The LA Valiant finally won a game after losing 8 in a row to start off the year. Can we get some congratulations for the Valiant down in the comments section, please? They finally did it. We can officially say that they will not be the second team to finish a season without a win. Their win against the Atlanta Reign was not easy, and there were certainly some ugly moments, but in the end, it was enough to get the job done. The Valiant made plenty of mistakes still, and they simply looked defeated at times, but there were also some bright spots in between to make up for it. One in particular that I want to bring up is KSF. I'll be the first to admit that the guy had never done much to impress me in the past. I've always kind of just thought of him as a mediocre player who's there to fill up a roster spot. But there were moments in this match where he did make me want to reconsider. His Zarya looked pretty solid for the most part. You could really feel his presence on Lijiang Tower in particular. He outplayed Babybay in the Zarya battle on this map, and I think the Valiant as a whole just looked really good on Lijiang. I cannot say the same about Paris or Blizzard World though. They just couldn't keep up on either of those maps. Popo really asserted his dominance over Fate, and Babybay was outperforming KSF. At this point, things were looking pretty bad for the Valiant. It was starting to feel like the exact same story where the team just looked lost and defeated. But then, a miracle happened. The Valiant were able to rally back. After a back and forth match on Junkertown, the Valiant were able to tie the series up at 2 apiece. I also really like the idea of subbing Izayaki out for Karib on this map. The Valiant found a fair amount of success in the past on this map when Karib was flexing onto heroes like Roadhog and Bastion, and this year seems to be no different. Izayaki is without a doubt the better Zen player, but Karib brings the desired versatility you're looking for on a map like this. It's not a rare occurrence to see your flex support play some Roadhog, and the result speaks for itself. The Valiant were able to take the map. This was another one of those maps in my opinion where KSF really stood out. He once again outdamaged Babybay while doing a whopping 27,000 damage. Then we finally had Busan as the tiebreaker map, and this is where the magic happened. The Valiant started off strong by taking the first round, but then in typical Valiant fashion they got dismantled during round 2. Things weren't exactly looking good going into round 3 after taking such a beatdown, and the Valiant would need some of their guys to step up in the clutch if they wanted to win. Fate and Space in particular were really popping off, which shouldn't come as much of a surprise. We all knew that these guys were going to be the backbone of this team coming into Season 2, and the final round of Busan showed exactly why. But if I'm going to be completely honest, Space just had a pretty good game in general. He was the Valiant's leader in eliminations on 4 of the maps in the series. I think it's safe to say that Space was a big reason why the Valiant were able to be competitive in this one. The Valiant were able to take the map and the series after a hard-fought final round in Busan with some heroic plays made by the tank line. It's good to see the Valiant finally on the board with a win. It just doesn't feel right seeing them struggle so much with all the success they had the previous year. I definitely think this team got some much needed confidence after finally winning their first game. I'm sure that a whole bunch of pressure just got lifted off their shoulders now that they don't have to deal with potentially staying winless every single game. If you need proof that this team got some needed confidence in themselves, then just look at their game against the Gladiators. Sure, they may have lost the series, but they certainly didn't make it easy for their opponents. Lijiang Tower was very closely contested, and Hanamura was just epic. If you weren't able to watch this match, and you do want to see a highlight or two, but you don't feel like sitting through the whole thing, then just do yourself a favor and watch the Hanamura part. Hydration popped off on Bastion, Surefour played Reaper, and the Valiant had an epic 4-minute hold on point B to make the map a draw. There were some crazy heroic plays made by the Valiant during this hold. For one, Fate made a massive hard carry play on Reinhardt where he killed 4 members of the Gladiators when pretty much everyone on his team was dead. There was also another moment where Izayaki was all by himself on the high ground and both Surefour and Hydration tried to dive him. It seemed like he was as good as dead until Space did one of the craziest peels I've ever seen in my life. A combination of defensive matrix and body blocking somehow allowed Izayaki to survive, escape, and make it back to the safety of his team. This map seriously had everything. It was one of the most entertaining Hanamura matches I've seen in a long time. I think this team should be happy with how they played during week 2. They got their first win, and they look competitive against a Gladiator squad that everyone thought would destroy them, and not to mention the fact that most people consider them to be like a top 4 or 5 team in the league right now. There definitely still is room for improvement, however. There were some obvious mistakes that were being made that need to be addressed. For one, Izayaki is still using Trance way too early in some of these team fights. I feel like other teams are just disengaging with speed boost and then team wiping using Grav way too often. Another thing that needs to be worked on is Agility's over aggression and his questionable rally usages on Brick. I would also like to see both Fate and KSF be a little bit more consistent with how they perform in game. Remember when I mentioned that KSF's been outplaying his Zarya counterpart at times? Well, more often than not, he still tends to get out damaged. Babybay and Decay were outplaying him more often than not last week. but the fact that he's even winning the Zarya battle at all at times is a really good sign. Improvement is something I've been waiting to see from this guy since he joined the team. Fate, on the other hand, has had a pretty up and down year so far. Sometimes he looks like a god, but then there's other moments where he just lets rookie main tanks walk all over him. The two biggest examples that come to mind for me are his battles against Nosemite and Pokpo. Fate was doing better than Nosemite for most of that game until that final round in Nepal when Nosemite just completely won the Reinhardt mind games. Pokpo was doing a lot of the same, but just on a more consistent basis, not just on one map. Fate was widely regarded as one of the best main tanks coming into the league in Season 2, so he really shouldn't be letting these rookie main tanks get the best of him. If the Valiants can work on some of these issues I brought up, then their chances of stringing together a few more wins this stage should increase. Now the question we all have to ask ourselves is, can these guys turn their season around? Obviously, it's still kind of early to make that call, but if the Valiants can continue to improve, build more synergy, and gain more confidence, then I definitely think there's a chance they could at least make a stage playoff either this stage or the next one. Stage 3 is more than likely their best opportunity since their schedule is a little bit on the lighter side when compared to stages 1 and 2. The Valiant obviously have their work cut out for them here. Although they didn't look bad last week, they are still 1 and 9. They need to start going on a win streak if they want to even have a chance of being part of the postseason. This team has a lot of really talented pieces with a whole lot of potential. Their tank line is really good, and they even found a hidden gem in Izayaki, who's looking more and more like one of the better Zenyatta players we have in this league. There's still hope for this team to turn things around for sure, but their window of opportunity is closing, so they have to act now. And I think that pretty much covers everything I wanted to say about the Valiant. It feels weird knowing that it took these guys so long just to win their first game. Hopefully these guys can continue to look competitive in the weeks to come. I'm excited to see if they get some momentum rolling for themselves now that they finally lifted that weight off of their shoulders of being winless. There's not so much pressure on these guys anymore, and it's going to be interesting to see if they can use that to their advantage. Anyway, that's pretty much going to do it for today's video. If you enjoyed it, then I'd very much appreciate it if you could like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you all so much for watching today's content, and until next time, this is ATP, signing out. Peace.